What are you looking at me like that for?
Actually, you know what? I want to do this a little bit differently. Let's spice the operation up here. Okay, that should be better. All right. Looks like I'm holding it in my hand. Bomb Cyclone. This term literally just entered my vocabulary earlier this week. If you were living underneath a rock for whatever reason, which in all honesty probably wouldn't be the worst thing considering the circumstances, it probably went right over your head, pun intended by the way, that a significant weather event took place akin to a hurricane that just tore through the Northwest and absolutely everything up. Bomb cyclone, you say? Well, it literally bombed more than 500,000 people into power outages that shrouded them in complete darkness. I mean, seriously, I don't know if I've ever seen something as significant in terms of weather or a windstorm as what just happened this past week. Because I'm honestly struggling to recall any instance of weather events comparable to the magnitude or scale as to what just happened earlier this week. But to put it mildly, it was very, very strange time because of course I was one of the people who lost power during that windstorm. You could feel the impact of the weather event everywhere you go, whether you were at home or going out in the city. When you were out in the city, you would notice substantial areas, neighborhoods that would otherwise be lit up completely dark. You'd be driving on a long stretch of road, let's say through an area full of business parks or whatnot, so it doesn't have many lights to begin with, but you know, it'd still be decently lit up, only to find that it almost feels like you're driving down a stretch of road in the middle of nowhere, like you're in the middle of a Mr. Nightmare story. But over at home, it honestly feels like you're in an isolated mountain cottage in the winter, right? The plumbing still works at least, so you can pee and poop and whatnot, but then you don't have power, so you don't have anything to heat the house. It's getting increasingly cold, there's no Wi-Fi, you have to use like a power supply with limited charge to power your electronics for the time being, and the service is coming and going. You really feel like you're almost cut away from everyone else, you know. And at night it's even worse, it's compounded because if you look outside, it's absolute darkness outside, so you honestly do feel like you're outside of anything considered civilization. This is as bad as it's ever been, especially in terms of power outages. Like, I don't recall people having lost power for almost a week worth of time. Like, if you looked across the street up until a couple hours ago before I'm filming this is Saturday, the bomb cyclone rolled in on Tuesday, there were still people without power right across the street from me and further down south that was still shrouded in complete darkness. I mean, it was crazy. I have to feel for those people because one of my main concerns actually arising from this storm was that the items in the fridge would eventually go bad and either we'd have to throw them all out entirely or pull out the coolers from summer camping season to try and desperately cool our items down, which thankfully we didn't have to do. Our power wasn't out for any more than 26 hours, so we didn't have it really, really bad as some other people nearby in our area. Probably the only lights you can see for miles in the middle of all the darkness was the lights from emergency service vehicles, and the only thing you could hear, of course, is the sirens from emergency vehicles. With that being said, slowly getting back over it, normalcy is starting to return somewhat. I do hope that in the future our electricity infrastructure, the power grid, is retrofitted and updated to further accommodate windstorms that exceed like 25 miles an hour, because usually that's the point where your lights start flickering and you're like, oh, power might go out. And most oftentimes it would only go out for several hours at a time, like about 6 hours, maybe at most 12 hours, but it was never like this. So something tells me that bomb cyclones such as these are going to become more and more common as the years go past, so it wouldn't surprise me if we see another event like this. What would surprise me, however, is if our power grid is unable to hold up to a storm of this comparable strength. When I was outside for a short while as the storm was starting to roll in, I can confidently say probably one of the strongest winds I felt in a long time. I was carrying a paper bag in one hand, almost thought that that shit was going to tear out of my hand and fly. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. But with that being said, with all the electricity coming back, hopefully everyone's doing better. I know that there was at least about 2 fatalities from this storm, so just hope everyone stays safe out there. That's about as deep as it gets with my personal experience. I don't have anything crazy, but we're in the eye of the storm, so that's still something. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next video. I don't know when that'll be. Bye-bye.